welcome to the Pastor Speak podcast. I'm your host, Aaron, and this is Micah and Tracy.
Hey.
We're here for the first time ever on video. Super excited.
This is the first time?
It's the first time.
Wow.
Yeah. Remember last time I set the camera up and it looked really bad? So I said, I'm not putting that up.
Okay, so this is the real one.
This is the real first time. The last time was like a test and I failed.
So is that why you picked us? Because we're camera, worthy to be in front of a camera?
Yeah, out of all the staff members, I think you guys,
Wow. We did it. Not true, but hey, we'll take it.
Yeah. You guys missed out on Zach last week, so visually, I guess. That's going to get weird as long as I keep talking.
Yep.
We should probably move on.
Let's move on. Okay, great. So, we've done a book club review of The Worry-Free Parent by Sissy Goff. A few months ago, I guess, was the last video. And last summer, a few of us on staff read a book called The Gospel Comes with a House Key.
Here's the book.
There it is.
We are not paid or sponsored by this book.
Thank you, Vanna.
But here it is.
Anyways, I really enjoyed the book. Not to spoil my, conclusion from the book or my bias, but I really enjoyed it. I listened to it because I bought it on, I bought it on the ebook or whatever.
Yeah.
Just listened to it. And I missed out on being able to hold a real book. I like that.
There you go.
Thank you. Oh, man.
It's a nice book. It's hardcover.
But it's written by Rosaria Butterfield. And I just wanted to ask you guys to introduce Rosaria to our congregation. So who is Rosaria Butterfield?
Well, I can tell you right here.
Okay, great.
They put a little bio about her. PhD, Ohio State University.
That's
How
a big
about
deal.
that? That's a big deal with the PhDs, huh? Is an author, speaker, pastor's wife, homeschool mom, and former professor of English and women's studies at Syracuse University. She's the author of The Secret Thoughts of an Unlikely Convert and Openness Unhindered.
She's super interesting.
Really fascinating story. Have you read the book on the Secret Life?
I have not.
No, I feel like I've read a lot about it.
Oh.
But you know how those
Yes,
books?
yes.
I haven't actually read it.
Have I read it? I don't know.
But I guess that was like her first big Christian book is
Oh, okay.
the story of her conversion because she was
It's radical.
a gay, radical feminist professor at Syracuse, actively opposed Christianity and all of its values.
And she was deeply entrenched in that culture.
Yeah.
She wrote policy for the university, all kinds of stuff. Activist.
Yeah, I mean, she was on the forefront of all that.
Yeah.
A lot of what we see now, she was even leading it. And then she was radically converted to Christianity, to Christ, through someone's hospitality. It was a pastor and his wife who began inviting her over for dinner and making her welcome in their home. And that is really what led to her salvation and kind of what led to this book.
And I think I heard that she said that pastor was pretty upfront saying, "You're not a project for me." When she started coming over. And if I remember correctly, the pastor and his way of life was actually a project for her. She was trying to figure them out.
Because she was doing research and trying to figure out why Christians were so angry towards her lifestyle. And I think she had written an op-ed maybe or something, an article of some sort, and he actually responded. And so then...
Oh, that's how they met. Yeah, I remember this. That's in the book. I think she talks a little bit about that. And that was really fascinating how she was trying to figure them out, and they were just willing to open up their home and kind of love her. And through a long period of time, that culminated in her testimony now.
Right. She was singing hymns and unconverted, right?
Yeah.
She was singing hymns.
Read through the Bible twice.
Read through the Bible multiple times. She was listening to sermons in the pastor's home. And I think in this book, she was actually, she wrote about actually warming up her vocal cords before she went
to
the meeting. And I was like, oh, that's fun. And she loved the way that they sang, and just that kind of hospitality was hugely important for her conversion.
Yeah, it was a draw. And she's obviously a brilliant person who's now written, and she speaks all over, and you'll see her if you go on YouTube or look up. She's written several books now on the topic of LGBTQ stuff because of her past, and then also on hospitality and even engaging some of the lies of the world. That's kind of her most recent book we've talked some about.
Yeah. I can't remember what that book was. What was it? 5 Lies?
5 Lies in a Secular Age or something of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. You can Google it.
Yeah. Rosaria Butterfield. So how is her life different now than when she started? We've kind of talked about it, kind of hit on it, but what's her life like now?
She's a Christian.
She
It's
is
like
indeed.
The opposite. She's like a Reformed Presbyterian's minister's wife, mom, homeschool.
Yeah, two kids.
Yeah, grandma too, I think now. So, yeah.
But I think that's one of the cool things about the book is she does tie in her story. The whole book is stories.
It is.
Yeah.
That
It
was
is.
the one
Yeah.
thing, the biggest thing that surprised me going into it. I thought this was going to be more like a book to teach me how to do hospitality. And there's some of that, but the majority of the book is telling stories of her own
Yes.
attempts at hospitality, her own background, her own past. And that's what makes it really easy to read, is because that is her strength, is storytelling.
Yeah.
Yes. I got a little frustrated with the book because I kept waiting for when are we getting to the point here?
Yeah.
But if I had gone in knowing this is her telling her story,
Yes.
and each chapter has a little different focus, but it's still a story, I probably would have gone in with better expectations.
Yeah.
But
What is
it was
going
really
on?
good. She's an excellent storyteller. Yes.
And that's the unique thing, is it is just she weaves the gospel into these real pretty amazing, insane stories, like the story about her neighbor who got
Yes.
busted with a meth lab, and then the story about her mother who was converted on her deathbed. I mean, there's like all these super captivating stories. That's definitely the highlight of the book. Less so of the hows, ins and outs of doing
She's not giving
hospitality.
you a specific recipe.
or
here.
manual, which
Manual.
Actually,
yeah.
she kind of does for beans, right? Beans
Except
and
for
rice.
beans.
she has like a
Beans
literal
and soup
Gives
and
you-
bread.
Yeah.
yeah. But she is very traditional in a lot of her ways of in terms of cooking and serving people. I think to some people it might even appear really old fashioned. Mm-hmm. But there's certainly an effectiveness to her methods and her ways. But she's very big on cooking, serving people at the table, sitting at the table.
Having people over every day.
Expecting
it seems like
to have
expecting
people
it
over.
at least.
Yeah, and that's the radical part, because the book, like you said, is practicing radically ordinary hospitality. That's the radical part.
Yeah.
Is that their front door stays open all the time. If someone showed up wanting to stay in their house, they would be welcomed. If someone just showed up for dinner, they have extra food. There is very, very little off limits. I mean, they live just very open-handed with their home, their resources, their time, their money. This is not just like one aspect of their Christian life. This is how they do the Christian life.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
almost all through the lens of hospitality.
You mentioned radically ordinary hospitality. She uses that phrase throughout the entire book. So what was so radical about it? What's so radical about it? We already kind of talked about
Yeah.
it, but
Well, she had several different aspects, but I think at the foundation, it was never labeling somebody or putting them in a category and just seeing them as that, and not ever seeing them as first made in the image of God. Everybody was welcome at her house, no matter their worldview, no matter who they were, what they've done, anything like that. And everybody around her is her neighbor, and her neighbors, I think she says, are the family of God. And so that's how she looks at everybody that she sees, which is different sometimes.
why is the hospitality ordinary?
Well, for her, I mean, she definitely tries to demystify it and get into kind of the gritty, messy. I think so often we think of hospitality as a big grand gesture. You have to cook your best meal. You have to clean your house from top to bottom. You have to set the table with your nice plates and silverware. You have to coach your kids on how to be well behaved and have activities and she's the complete opposite of that. She is, no, we just open the door. That's it. We don't worry about our house looking a certain way. We don't worry about people acting a certain way. We don't worry about preparing anything special. What we're eating is what they're going to eat. They know the rules of the house. They help clean up. It's not majorly service oriented. Whereas a lot of times if you get invited to someone's house, people really kind of cater to you. No, it's just, hey, you're welcome here, making you feel welcome, but you're just a part of the family now. Mm-hmm. That's the ordinary aspect of it. And it is radical because of how different it is from our culture. Yep. I mean, how does our culture views their home as more of a sanctuary, an escape? I mean, how many of our neighbors, it'd be weird to go in their house because it's so private.
As an introvert,
yes,
stay out of my bubble.
This
right?
is my space. This is my alone time, and she talks about that too because she's very much an introvert, and how people exhaust her and how she has to prepare for that, which was interesting.
Yeah,
but she ultimately views her house as not even hers, but as a gift for the purpose of building God's kingdom, which is a hard mindset to shift to sometimes.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, it's radical to the point where she hosts, people who are in prison, but who get a leave on holidays to come eat at her table. She befriends the one neighbor in the neighborhood that everyone is very suspicious of and ends up really disliking and being angry with. That's her biggest person she gravitates to.
Yeah. And she does so with young kids in the house, which we talked about in our book club a little bit about the mindset of, we want to protect our kids and, we don't want to expose them to certain things, but she just opened the door and parented her children right on through those things.
Yeah. I mean, it's the complete opposite. Yeah. What a lot of people think is shield their kids. And, I'm sure she does to an extent. And, you see she talks about how important homeschooling is to her family. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to welcoming people in, I mean, she welcomes, because of her own story, she welcomes people who live an LGBT lifestyle, who use swear words, who talk about all sorts of things, and her kids are there. And it's part of the discipleship of them is helping them to see we do this because Christ dined with sinners. And that was once us.
And I was going to say, she uses it as a discipleship opportunity for her kids, like you said, but she takes that time to go, pulls them aside and goes, this is what's going on. And she explains like grief to young kids, people who are going through really tough grief, which I thought was good. I mean, kids need to know how to deal with that, I think.
Yeah, so. It's really important. The other thing I was going to say too is, yes, she homeschools, and I think part of it is maybe the protection aspect, but part of it I think was because then having a homeschool lifestyle would allow them to be at home and cater to the needs of the people around them and live that slower paced life, because she talked a lot about building in margins that can be disrupted.
Yep.
Which we definitely don't live that lifestyle necessarily in Johnson County or America even. That's just so against our culture of hurry and do everything you can and come home and crash at night.
Your calendar is full.
Yes.
Yeah, we talked a lot about that when we met, because it is that way a lot of times where you, from sun up to sundown, you're not at home, you're running. And you can't neighbor and be hospitable if you're never at home.
Not home. Right.
And so she talks about how essential it is to say no and to really simplify and minimize your life and your schedule. And that does mean your kids miss out on some things. It does mean your family misses out on some things. But it gives you the opportunity to practice that hospitality.
Yeah, her schedule gets interrupted a lot, at least from the book.
Oh, yeah.
So how does she use hospitality as evangelism?
I think just at the very core is just the relationship building. That's where she is meeting with people, is through hospitality, and where she's having conversations with people is in her own home and allowing people to just come in and be who they are and ask the questions they want to without judgment, and starting with a relationship.
Yeah, and I think it's really organic. I think a lot of people, it's hospitality, here's what I got to do. I've got to invite my neighbors over, then I got to kind of like sneak in
a conversation.
To the conversation,
I know.
Jesus, or maybe I need to plan some Bible study. For her, it's very organic. She just is who she is, and her family is who her family is. So they read the Bible together, they pray together, they sing together. So when they have people over, they don't change that. They just invite them to be a part. They talk about spiritual conversations. So when they have neighbors over, they just invite them to be a part. And it happens naturally because they're just living their life. So I think that's a corrective we need, is that, we don't, evangelism, hospitality, it's not a program. It's not something we have to try to be all shifty and nifty about.
Put it on a calendar.
Put it on the calendar. No, just do it and open up your home and watch how God uses the ordinary aspects of your life to give you an opportunity to preach Christ.
Yeah, there was a quote in the last chapter. Imagine a world where neighbors said that Christians throw the best parties in town and are the go-to people for big problems and issues without being invited. So people come to you to grieve, to celebrate, everything in between. That whole section was intense.
Really good.
I think the one thing that stands out for me the most from the book is that she said at some point, Christians should be the people that the neighbors come to make sense of what's going on in their lives and in the world. And we should be the ones with the answers. Now, we don't always have, exact answers, but we have truth to share. And that's what she was trying to convey. And that really stuck out to me a lot.
Yeah.
So we're kind of almost talking about it now, but how were you challenged by the book?
The book itself is very convicting. I mean, she throws haymakers at people, at you, the reader.
Every week we were like, man, I stink at this.
Yeah, like she does not hold back in saying that there's no excuse. That she just dismantles every excuse you have. I'm too busy. My house isn't big enough. I don't know how to cook. My kids are too crazy. I mean, she just systematically dismembers it all and makes you feel like, okay, I should be doing this. And so I was challenged to stop viewing my home as my own private lair, and because it's not mine, to see more of my home and my possessions and my time even as belonging to God ultimately, and being a gift used to be stewarded for him. That was my biggest challenge.
I think the part about just expecting to be disrupted and allowing time for that, and not being frustrated by people who need things. Sometimes I struggle with that. Maybe as a mom, somebody always needs something.
Yep. Yeah.
But just knowing that the people around me need things, and to seek to meet those needs as well in easy ways, or it could be time consuming, it could be a conversation, whatever it is, but just looking for and then meeting those needs.
Yeah.
Because that's what you find when you get involved in people's lives. You find out that people are messy.
They're kind of messy. Yeah.
And people's difficulties and tragedies don't operate on a schedule. You see that a lot in the book. I mean, just unexpected things that just happen in the neighborhood, and she's right in the middle of it and takes it in stride as a way to be a witness.
Yeah. It felt like throughout the earlier parts of the book that she was like always the go-getter. She was always doing it. She was always going 100%. She was always doing it really, really well. I think towards the end of the book, I realized, this is probably like a highlight reel of some things.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't think she was perfect in everything when it comes to hospitality, right? But she definitely hits hard. And there was a moment in the last chapter. If you love acquisition and achievement, you will never practice hospitality.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. If the white carpet is an idol, or the new paint or the couch is an idol, you'll never practice hospitality. And she, a few paragraphs later, in reality, Christians who have too much are the ones prohibited from practicing hospitality. They have so many cluttered idols, they can give nothing at all. For this reason, it is often the well-heeled and the rich who are known for their lack of hospitality, and the meager and even poor who are known for their plentiful hospitality. So, Christian, kill your idols. And then she quotes 1 John 2, 15 through 17. Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes and the pride of life, is not from the Father, but is from the world. And the world is passing away along with its desires, but whoever does the will of God abides forever. So she has these like moments where she like hits you really hard. And you're like, oh, okay. And then she quotes scripture and like, dang it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is, why do we not practice hospitality? I mean, especially where we live here, is we have stuff. We love our stuff. We love our homes. We don't want people to mess up We love our schedules. We love our routines. We guard things so tightly, and that's what she's hitting on. If you're that way, hospitality just isn't going to work. It's just there's no room for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how were you encouraged by the book? Were there any encouragement?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think one of the big things I just took away and kind of been thinking through is, one of the qualifications to be a pastor is to be hospitable. It's amazing how we skip over that one when we know about a lot of the others, but it's literally, if I am not hospitable and practicing hospitality, I am disqualified as a pastor. Like, it's that essential to my role as a shepherd and to being a follower of Jesus. And so that sounds challenging, but I was just encouraged that, hey, I'm called to do this. I can do this, and that I don't have to have this big grand plan. That was the most encouraging part, is that you can just love people and invite them into what you're already doing right now. You can start now. That was encouraging me.
And that was kind of the end of the book too, is like, just do it.
Just start somewhere.
Start. Tracy?
Yeah. I struggled with this book for a while just because it felt like she was an overachiever, and sometimes it came across as condescending, and that I'll never be able to achieve what she does because my lifestyle is so vastly different from what she's doing. But what I did take away and what was encouraging about it is the just do it part. Do what you can with what you have. And I think she would also probably say, live a life of generosity. Live below your means so that you can be generous with what you have, whatever that may be. Cooking a little extra in case somebody does come over, or being open to conversation when you're outside, not being rushed, praying for people in your neighborhood by name and asking if they would like prayer, just those little things that anybody can do. So those things were encouraging because I can do those things.
Yeah, no, you're right about her in the book. She's like Superwoman from her daily schedule and all the things she's able to balance at once. So that can definitely be like, oh man, how am I ever going to be that? But I think she finally gets to it at the end. It's like, look, it's going to look a little different, but you can do it.
Yeah. I think for me, reading through the book, I started seeing elements of her story that were just like fantastical. I don't know. Like just larger than life elements of her story. And then as I kept reading, I'd go, but I kind of did some of that.
Mm-hmm. Like I remember when you were saying, oh, well, I did it this way. I'm like, you did. And
I did,
we kind of all
like
had
that.
moments like that. Yeah.
You can write this book.
No, I can't. But I think if you look at your life as you're reading through this kind of book, you go, wow, that's huge. That's crazy. That's awesome. Those are big events in someone's life, and you get intimidated really easily.
Yeah.
But then if you look at it from a different perspective, you go, wait a minute, I kind of did that thing. And that was kind of cool back then. Maybe I should do that again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how could this book benefit our listeners? And I'm thinking of like our Summer of Neighboring, right?
Yeah.
So how could this book benefit our listeners?
I think I would recommend it just to challenge your thinking. Know that you don't have to be just like her. You don't have to do it just like her family, but it definitely challenges you in a lot of different ways, but how to create margin, how to love people radically in an ordinary way, just all sorts of things. It's helps get you thinking about what you can already do with the things that you already have, where God has placed you.
Yeah, and especially, as you said, what we're really emphasizing as a church this summer, and then also in the coming church year, there's going to be a huge emphasis on hospitality. I mean, Mom Connection, I know you spent the whole last year talking about it. We're going to keep talking about it because we really think that in our culture, in our society, especially where we live here in Johnson County, one of the keys to reaching our community is by being good neighbors, which entails being hospitable, which entails being a light right there where you are. And so that is a huge emphasis, something you're going to be hearing a lot more about. And this book could help propel you and equip you on that path.
And encourage you, I think, or challenge you, whichever one.
Yeah.
Both, all of it,
encourage. But yeah, we have our prayer walking guide that you guys developed. You can find that on our website. if you want to get in on that. Our prayer prompts throughout the summer are going to be based on that prayer walking guide, which is all about reaching out to your neighbors.
Micah, you can promote the Bless app.
Oh, the
Hello?
Bless app.
Dude,
Yes.
yeah.
That's a big thing we've always pushed. Just, it gives you your names of your neighbors that you can pray for. And there's other things now that there's been new developments to the app.
Yeah, email reminders and stuff to
Yeah,
help you keep
absolutely.
on it. There's an app, not just the website. You can do both, but
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you guys so much for joining me today on our first ever video podcast.
Woo.
I'm going to leave a little bit of silence in case it looks bad or something, and then I can edit that out.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. It looks fine. But thank you so much for joining me on the video podcast. To our viewers, for the first time ever, and listeners, thank you so much for listening to us. I hope that you found this conversation encouraging, and we would recommend the book. I think it was fun for me to listen to, and I think it was overall a good book to read, and I think it'll help you neighbor well. If you have any questions, we like to answer questions occasionally on certain episodes of our podcast. So please send us questions at justask@bluevalleychurch.org. And if you like the content, subscribe to us and hit that bell or the heart or the other thing.
A lot of
whatever
things.
it is, all the things. It's social. You guys get it. Anyways, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.